Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Anything Goes. My name's Andrew Dika, and I have the honor to have Denis, the Menace Frimpong, on the channel, coming off a great win against Arijan Topallaj. Denis, how you doing, my man?
I'm good, bro. Good. Just enjoying some family time now. Obviously, like you say, just coming off the back of a win, two wins back to back this year, and looking to just build off that momentum now.
And that's a five-win streak. God willing, making it six next time round.
100%. I'm like I say, I'm looking to be active. I've always been active since amateur days, so I just want to stay on that path of just like 3, 4 fights a year. It's the kind of sport where like you never know when an injury is going to happen and you're out for a year. Do you know what I mean? So while I'm not injured, I just want to get them in, get them in, get them in.
So I want to take you back a little bit. Where did it all start? Where the desire came from that I want to up a pair of MMA gloves and I want to become a professional MMA fighter?
There was no specific one moment, I would say. It's just a full lifetime of just little things that have brought me to this point, I think. Obviously, growing up, I was fighting all the time. Like I was always scrapping. I was always a scrapper. Um, I was always good at sports. MMA was never really a thing that was like in the town I grew up in. There was no gyms. There was no MMA gyms. There was like a bit of boxing gym or whatever, like, but there's no MMA gyms. And then, sort of like in the early 20s, I found Muay Thai and I found Jiu Jitsu when I moved to Dublin. Started doing more Jiu Jitsu than anything, competed a lot in Jiu Jitsu. And it's kind of like, I'll say it's a bit of like a posh sport in that, like, it's expensive, like buying gis, paying for your memberships, paying to do tournaments, all that, and it doesn't really pay anything back. There's no return on your investment, to be honest. So during COVID, then I met Shamrock, and started training with him a little bit. Went back to doing Muay Thai because that was the only gym that was open. We were doing like secret training, closing the shutters and all that. And I ended up training with some MMA fighters, and yeah, just one thing led to another, and I ended up having like an amateur MMA fight, won it spectacularly, and just knew that this was what I was meant to do.
And talk about that. Growing up in Dublin, growing up in Ireland, obviously your background, correct me if I'm wrong, half Ghanaian, half Slovenian, right?
Yeah,
Talk
half
about
the
that.
in, yeah. Um, so yeah, obviously it was mad, like, because I was part of probably like a first generation of like a lot of immigrants that came to Ireland. 'Cause before I moved to Ireland, Ireland was sort of like a third world country. It was only in the 90s maybe it started becoming like a popular destination for immigrants to look for a better life. Um, Obviously would have had a lot of Nigerian, a lot of Congolese, um, a lot of Albanian, to be honest, Kosovans, um, a lot of like Croatians and Bosnians, obviously from the war. So a lot of like asylum seekers more so. But there wasn't really a big community of Slovenians or Ghanaians, to be honest, because those were two countries where like I don't think there's as much emigration out of those countries as there is other countries. So it was a bit mad, and I was probably one of only few mixed race kids in the country. That I knew of anyway. So it was a bit. I was always a bit of a black sheep. I was like stuck out a little bit. Was always, like I say, a bit of a scrapper. So um, I wasn't. I didn't take shit off people. So it was a bit mad. It was a bit mad, like, but I'll never fault any of my life experiences because, like I say, like God has His own plan, and those plans have led my life to be the way it was and have led me to be where I am now, which I'm happy with right now. So,
I love to hear that. And talk about it there, whether it be an athlete, whether it be your father, your mother, or someone close in the family. Who's your biggest inspiration and idol growing up, and that led you into this path?
so in terms of my work ethic, my dad definitely he is like a grafter. He's always been a grafter. He always instilled that like if everyone else is doing 5 hours of work, you do seven. Do you know what I mean? You just work harder than everyone else, and then you'll get to where you want to get to. In terms of like the sport, I have a few. Probably Anderson Silva in terms of his style and his flair in the cage. Conor McGregor in terms of like just being an Irish guy and like getting to the pinnacle of the sport and selling and promoting himself with his trash talk, which just comes naturally to Irish people anyway. Like we just chat like that to each other, and then it just the Americans just love it because they don't really know how to do all that. And then as well, yeah, probably just them will probably be the ones that inspired me the most. Obviously, the people around me as well, in terms of like the people I train with, the people that I train with that are doing well. You know, like right now, probably the likes of like Lewis from Grilling, like Shem, um, you know, Atiba, Lerone Murphy, these kind of people that I'm around that are excelling in in the same field as me, probably push me on the most.
After that, and then when did you go from Dublin to Birmingham and now train out of Manchester top team?
So initially, I moved from Dublin to Manchester just at the end, like the tail end of COVID, 2021, end of 2021. Um, and then I only recently moved to Birmingham, to be fair. I lived in Manchester for like 3 years, 4 years. I just recently moved to Birmingham, but I still train at a Manchester top team. Um, yeah, just moved because I felt like I needed an actual MMA gym. My first couple amateur fights, I was training in like a Muay Thai gym and a jiu-jitsu gym. So I was doing like jiu-jitsu and Thai separately to each other, not doing MMA. So I looked for an MMA gym. I found like a decent job. Obviously, I was working full time at the time as well. I found a decent job in Manchester, and felt like I needed a bit of a change from Dublin. Dublin's like quite expensive to live in, and like if you're not, if you want to be an MMA fighter, it's a unless you have family in Dublin, which I didn't. My family live outside Dublin, and like I didn't really feel like living at home. So unless you're living at home and that, like it's not really doable, you know, as an MMA fighter.
And you talk about the expenses. I know as well, being born and raised in London. Talk about the expenses of being an MMA fighter, and you say that there you go to your first gym, it's XYZ in terms of the prices, and it's expensive, especially back in the day, and even now for kids and youngsters growing up. Then having buying headgear, buying gloves, buying shorts, buying nutrition supplements, everything to go with it. And what made you say that, as you said off camera, that there's no initial reward? There's very few people in this world that will take the risk when there's no reward, there's no immediate reward. What made you feel that this is what I want to do, this is what I have full faith in, and you didn't look like a B plan or a C plan? You look, this is all in, and many people, as I said prior, will look for, oh, I need money straight away. Oh, I need success straight away. But in the long term, you've done it and it's played out. What made you have that courage and belief to keep going when you knew there wasn't going to be a initial, here's a 5 grand, here's a 50K bonus, here's 10 professional fights off the door, a UFC contract on your door. It's
Yeah.
going to be a stepping stone. It's more of a marathon than a sprint. But what made you want to dedicate your life to this?
Just love it, to be honest, mate. Like, even if I had a full time job now, and I mean, when I left full time work, I had a good job. I worked in finance. I was making good money, consistent. You know, I was on a salary, making money every month. Knew when my paycheck was coming in. You know, could go on holidays, could get nice things for myself, all that. But it didn't cure the itch that I had inside of me. Um, so I saw people that I worked with would, you know, work this job that they hate doing just because it pays well. And then on Friday night, they go out, they get a few pints into them, they get a bag, you know what I mean? They put it up their nose, you know, they spend the weekend doing that. And then Monday they come back in depressed, do it all over again. And it's not the cycle that I wanted to do. Um, so while I was working in that job, rather than go home, watch Netflix, have dinner, have a takeaway, whatever, I'd go straight to the gym. I'd work because I knew that I was working towards something. And then it got to a point where I was like, right, if I'm going to do this, I need to do it full time. I need to like relieve myself of this safety blanket of like having an income, having a steady income. It's going to be tough for a couple of years, but I'll get there because I knew I had the talent, I knew I had the work ethic, and I knew I had the potential to excel in the sport, And I saw what other people around me were making in terms of their fight purses and stuff like that. And I was like, well, if they can do it, why can't I do it? So that was what there was definitely a point in my amateur career where I knew that like this was what I wanted to do full time. And I knew that it would suck for a little while. It has sucked for a little while, but it's getting better, and I know that in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, it's only going to get better and better and better. So
Love to hear that, champ. And you talk about it there. Obviously, your amateur career. Obviously, amateurs in MMA is very different to amateurs in boxing and other sports. But talk about it there. I remember interviewing so many people out at the Saralonga gym, and one great phrase that Aljamain Sterling always gave to his stablemates and teammates is saying that learn from it. Take as many fights as you can because it doesn't matter. Obviously, it does to the hardcores and everyone that watches in, and depending if it's for a title or not. But it's like work experience. It's getting as much experience under your resume and learning from it because everyone says a loss in the amateurs is not the same as a loss in the pros. So talk about that there. What did you learn from the amateurs, and were you happy with your amateur career?
I was happy with my amateur career. I would have, obviously, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Would have liked to have started MMA maybe a bit earlier. I didn't start MMA till I was like 26, 27, So I would have liked to have started maybe with 23, 24, and then I could have gotten a few more amateur fights in, a bit more experience. But I got 8 amateur fights in like a year and a little bit. I went 6-2, 2 decision losses. One was a split decision. Arguably won both those fights as well. They were very close fights. But gained what I needed to get in terms of experience, like you said, fought different styles, strikers, wrestlers, MMA guys, Thai guys, jiu-jitsu guys. And got those, just that comfortability in the cage where I felt like, yeah, I'm ready to go pro now. My coach thought I was ready to go pro. And I was able to jump in and start making money out of it.
And then when was the idea to say, when you turned pro, did you say, wow, like you're starstruck, or this is everything you've been working for and you knew the day would come? This is a moment, obviously unfortunate circumstances, but how did you feel once you turned over pro?
I always felt like I was, I felt like I was ready to go pro a couple of years before that. I trained with pros and all that, so it wasn't like a big, yeah. The only thing was like, I was like, oh, suddenly now there's 5-minute rounds, but I had been waiting for a long time to be able to unleash the full arsenal of this at my disposal. Elbows, knees to the head, heel hooks. I'm a bit of a slow starter as well. I don't know what you've seen in the Iron fight. I don't really start fights fast. I build into fights a little bit. So having 5-minute rounds definitely played in my favor a little bit as well. So yeah, I was excited. It was like I was more than ready. It wasn't a big shock to the system or anything like that.
And then I want to talk about it there. So lost the first bout, won the second one, lost again. What does it mean to you? And then won 5 since. What does it mean to you not to let losses, as I say, don't let wins get to your heart, and then also not to let losses get to your heart, or the saying I'm going on here. But how do you come back from it? And of course, many people take a loss as, oh, is this what I really want to do? Is this what I want to pursue? And it can let it break them and tear them down. What does it show about yourself and about your characters? Like you said, you're a fighter, you're a scrapper, you love it, but to show that you can come back from losses and you prove people wrong and you move past them.
Well, so my pro debut, obviously, I lost in a split decision as well in UAE Warriors in Dubai or Abu Dhabi. Anyone who watches that fight knows that it was a robbery. I knew it was a robbery. My coach knew it was a robbery. The crowd knew it was a robbery. Anyone who watched it knew it was a robbery. So I didn't feel like I lost the fight. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So regardless of what it said on my record, it's not like I come out of that fight beat up and I was like, oh, that guy beat me up. Do you know what I mean? Like I beat him up and I just got robbed on a judge's scorecard. it was disappointing that I didn't have the win or whatever. I didn't got paid less. You know what I mean? That was the main thing. But other than that, it didn't affect me mentally too much. Obviously, the fight against George that I lost, I did get beat up. You know, I did get outclassed a little bit in that fight. But also against a guy who is very experienced, like has been training MMA since he's a kid. I've only been doing MMA even now, like just under 4 years, you know. So I still didn't think too much of. I've never been knocked out. That's my main thing. I've never been outclassed on the feet in a fight. You know, I've never been like striking with someone and they've beat me up on the feet. You know, someone can come and hold me down and grab hold of me legs and like lie on top of me and all that kind of shit. But like, you're not really beating me up then, are you? You're just sort of like, you're grappling at me, you know what I mean? So until the day comes when someone pings my head off in a cage and I can't hit them and they're beating the fuck out of me, landing combos on me, maybe then I'll have those kind of thoughts, but it's not happened yet. So,
and God willing, it won't. And you talk about that there, and I think that's the one thing about MMA which separates it from boxing. Of course, one thing I want to pick up on there is losses. I know you're more of an MMA fan than any other sport in the world, but talk about that. What is it about MMA fighters that make a more game? That you look at Nate Diaz, you look at Tony Ferguson. I know he's on the end of his career. You see Donald Cerrone. What is it about MMA fighters, and especially like yourself, when you're not getting shot, when you're not getting outclassed on the feet, that again, if it's a submission or a grappling win, like I can't remember the fight, but I think Dana White called it one of the worst fights he's ever seen. I think it was Curtis Blades and Alexander Volkov, where he's literally holding. He took 27 takedowns in a fight. That, like you said, it's a loss, of course, and people will call it boring. People will call it, oh, he's just wrestling. And the difference was with Khabib. Khabib would fight and do stuff whilst on the ground, where a lot of others gauge time and want to slow down a fight. Like when Dan Hooker fought Paul Felder. Paul Felder, in my opinion, was winning the fight. Dan Hooker took a takedown in the last few seconds, and obviously being a hometown favourite, they remember the last 30 seconds of the fight and they give that to him. What is about MMA fighters that are, one, I want to say more game and fight everyone, and also the mentality that just to keep going again. And like I said, in boxing, a loss defines a fighter sometimes. Of course, it doesn't, but some fighters can be shaken, like Anthony Joshua and other people. What is it about MMA fighters that, pardon my French, but they don't give a fuck and they want to keep going?
I just think it's the sport, isn't it? Like you look at, right, let's say, like you mentioned, Nate Diaz.
Mm-hmm.
You look at Kevin Holland, who just fought on the weekend. Like, Kevin Holland's got like 8 losses in the UFC. Do you know what I mean? Like, but he's still a star. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. Sometimes you can be undefeated and not be a star because you're boring. No one wants to watch you fight. It's about who wants to watch you fight at the end of the day. You know, you can be an undefeated prospect. Like, look, George Staines beat me. Yeah, just under a couple of years ago, and here we are. We both fought on the same card in Munich. I was fighting on the co-main event, and he was fighting on the prelims, even though he beat me. You know, and the guy who beat the guy I was fighting George also on the prelims, because no one wants to watch people grab hold of you and sniff your balls. Do you know what I mean? Like, end of the day, you can say, oh yeah, the purists, they love to watch, like, oh, if the guy's grappling you, just stand up. And it's like, yeah, but we're looking to hurt each other, right? Like, not hold on to each other. And like, yeah, I don't know. In a real fight, you wouldn't do that. You'd try and knock someone out, wouldn't you? Like, I don't know. It's one of them. It's about how exciting you are. It's about excitement. This is the entertainment business. It's not just a sport. It's the entertainment business. So,
like you were saying there, people in recent years, and obviously since MMA came into the world and the UFC started back in '93, everyone says MMA is a better sport than boxing. MMA is more violent. MMA is, oh my God, more competitive. They're more brutal. But what do you make of those comments? And do you show it that it's a sport of, obviously it's a sport of respect, but do you think the pace, and what do you make it that more fans would rather tune into an MMA main event or an MMA card than a boxing card?
I just think that MMA, for the reason I prefer MMA anyway, is because it's not a limited form of fighting. You know, like imagine I have an issue with someone in a bar, and we go outside, and I'm like, yeah, okay, we're gonna fight, but no kicking, no elbowing, no kneeing. Don't grab hold of me. You can't slam me on my head. You can't kick me in the leg. We're just gonna use our fists. Like it's not really a fight then, is it? Like it's a boxing match, really. Um, and like I understand that the skill involved in boxing, you know, they're purists. So if I went into a boxing gym and sparred a boxer at boxing, yeah, he'd probably ping my head off. But if me and like the best boxer on the planet right now, let's say like a Lomachenko or like Canelo, if me and him had a real fight, yeah, like I just bumped into him in the street, you know, he said something rude to me and we started fighting with no rule set in place, I'd fucking kill him. So like, you know, what do we want to know? Do we want to know what's the most effective form of fighting, or do we want to know who's the better boxer? Because you can be a better boxer and not be a better fighter than someone. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And another thing that you said earlier, and I'll pick up on it, as you're saying with George Saints, and fighters that, for example, Michael Johnson might have a great win over Dustin Poirier, a knockout win. There you go. That shows that he's managed to stop him, and Dustin's still a star, and Michael Johnson again fighting on prelims and main cards.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? Because, like you said, a loss doesn't define you here, and I think more or not, and it's not to be disrespectful, but those losses, they're good in the moment for those fighters, but they're more known from the fighter propelling themselves and people looking at their records and then finding out about the guy, then instead of them finding about them. Like you said, there's so many guys you could beat now, and you could say, "Oh, I beat him." Or like, look at Ian Gary and Shavkat. Of course, Ian was on a roll. Dricus du Plessis, people didn't rate him, and look at Dricus where he is now. So, yeah, again, mentioning that, what do you think of Ian Gary?
Um, I think he's a bit of a weird guy, to be honest, mate. Like, you know, I don't know what else to say about that. He's just a little posh boy that like learned how to fight. A bit of a weird bloke, weird relationship with his missus, I suppose. Like, not going to comment too much on that, but like, teach their own. I just think it's a bit weird that like she's just always involved in his thing. You know what I mean? Keep your family life and your business life separate. Don't like mix the two. It's a bit weird. Like,
100%. And another thing I want to mention to you there. So, going off of that loss, since then, you've had a five-fight win streak, and we'll get onto your most recent one, which we started off the interview with. But talk about the Jam fight, the Callum, the Dylan, the Robin fight. What propelled you to say, "Oh shit, I don't want to take any more losses now," and you've gone onto a five-fight win streak?
like I said, like I feel like the George fight's the only fight I've ever really lost. You know, decisions aren't a loss. I don't think you have lost a fight, you've lost a decision.
It's the
Uh,
opinion of three judges.
exactly. You know, and sometimes when it's a split decision, one judge thought you won and the other two thought you lost, which is like whatever. You know, um, the George loss. Yeah, obviously, I just thought I never want to feel that way again. And I also know that like George is very good. He's still undefeated. He's run through everyone else that he's fought. So it's like, is anyone else really going to be able to do what George did to me? You know, in Octagon? Probably not. You know, the way to beat me is to do what George did, hold me down, all of that. But again, that was nearly 2 years ago. I've improved since then. People have tried to do that to me since then and failed. So it's more of a testament of how good George is rather than like, you know, my grappling not being good. So yeah, people can try and like, and I know people are going to continue to try and win that way against me, and they're going to continue to fail. And I'm going to continue to go run through people, rise through the ranks, and maybe we'll get a rematch one day down the line.
And what would you say is your most impressive win in MMA? It could even be outside the ring, but what's your most impressive win in the sport?
Um, has to be my last fight, doesn't it? Like a 7-1 prospect from Germany, Albanian German. Um, came out strong. You know, was the first person to win a round against me in like 4 or 5 fights, and then I came back into it and I finished them. And I think people really have to put respect on my name now after that. Yeah, I think your last win should always be the most impressive, really. You know, because I'm fighting forward. I'm not fighting backwards. So
Yeah. And let's talk about that fight. Arijan Topallaj, and I think it's a fight that's been brewing for a few months, and I feel like it's one that took the fans' attention. And let's just talk about it. How did this all escalate? Was there anything, I don't want to say premeditated, but was there anything that was going back and forth online before, or did it literally just come from that moment you walked across him in the last 2, 3 octagon fights you came across, and you have that highlight reel clip, and then yeah.
so basically, he was meant to. I got offered Arijan Topallaj in January or at the end of January to fight him in March in Stuttgart, his hometown. Um, you know, the contract came out. I signed it. He didn't sign his, and then I was told that he was pulling out because of staff or whatever. And then I got offered Robin Frank. You know, I fought him. I beat him. And then I saw Arian in the crowd in Stuttgart, and I was like, and I went over to him and I was like, lad, what's the story? When are we fighting then? Because this was meant to be you that was fighting today. He got a bit aggy. Obviously, his people were around him. There was security around. He slapped me. Security pulled me away, and then they just made a big scene out of it. And then obviously Octagon have offered the fight again. He's accepted. Went a bit back and forth online about it and that, as I do. Sold the fight a bit. Did a little face to face. I predicted what would happen. I told him he would come out strong in the first round, try and finish me. Wouldn't finish me. Second round, he'd start getting tired. I'd wear him down. I thought I would finish him at the end of the second round. I finished him pretty much like 30 seconds, 20 seconds into the third round. So if that second round was like a minute longer, I would have finished him there and then. But yeah, that was it. It wasn't like any like proper beef or like, you know, like personal beef. But it was like competitive egos, right? Like, I think I'm better than you. You think you're better than me. You pulled out once, so I'm going to take the piss out of it. Hurt his ego a little bit. He got a bit emotional about it, reacted, and then we finally got to settle it.
Dennis, I wanted to ask you something here. So you talked about the face-to-face with Arian. Something that I want to ask you again, was this premeditated? That obviously you gone off of his last fight, which he lost in the stadium, and in the backstage he was crying. You managed to print a pretty good picture of him crying and wear it face-to-face. Did he get annoyed or emotional about that, or?
I think he was trying not to show his emotions about it, but it obviously annoyed him. Like, it would have annoyed me, you know. So it obviously did get to him, but he was trying not to like react to it, if that makes sense.
And I want to say something here, and this comes as you're a professional athlete. We know outside noise. We know how hostile Albanian fans can be and how supportive they can be of their fighter. Did you get any hate going into this fight? Did you get any hate in the arena? How did you feel? Because you did say a lovely piece before about going masjid, going mosque with Albanians, being with Albanians around in your community, and you gave a lot of praise. And you said it's not you against Albanians, it's you against Arian, and it's a fight between you two. But what a lot of people tend to do, whether it's football or whether it's a fight, especially when there's a passionate background, they try to make it about the nation. How did you manage to calm it down, and not just calm it down, but just don't take anything from outside noise, lock in and focus and just say, Arian, I've got respect for you. I've got respect for Albanians, but this isn't me versus Albania. It's me versus you. And whoever wins is a winner, and you came out on top.
Yeah, I just felt like he tried to make it out like I was chatting shit about Albanians, and I was like, I never actually chatted shit about Albanians. I was chatting shit about you personally, but like, me insulting one person doesn't insult their whole country. Um, and like that, like like I said to you off camera or off record, like I knew a lot of Kosovans growing up. I knew a lot of like Bosnians growing up, Albanians growing up. Um, I still know a lot of them. I live in a community like in an area right now where it's like heavily Albanian area. I've no issue with Albanians. You know what I mean? I actually kind of I respect their fight against Serbian oppression. I respect all oppressed people, whether it be in Palestine, in Albania, in Kosovo, Northern Ireland. I grew up in Ireland my whole life, so like I understand what it's like for oppression to be a part of everyday life. Um, so yeah, I just felt like he tried to make it about like this national thing. I was like, bro, like it's just me and you in the cage. Like you're not like we're not going to war with each other's countries. Um, I did get a little bit of hate from some Albanian fans, but I also got a lot of like nice messages off some Albanian fans where they were like, "Oh, I'm Albanian. I like what you said." Um, this kind of stuff. So it is what it is. Obviously, after the fight, also got a lot of nice messages where people were saying, "Yeah, like it was a good fight. Respect for getting in there and that." He did bring a big crowd to the arena, but like I said, it's me and him that get in the cage. If it was a matter of like his crowd fighting my crowd in the arena, it would have been different. But like, it's just the two of us in the cage. The crowd making noise doesn't make a difference, really. So
And obviously, he has a lot of Albanians that live there, and there's German natives that come over. He's got both fans. Did you have a lot of Irish, Slovenian, Ghanaian, or German fans come out to support you?
I had a few. I had a few Germans. I had a few come over from Ireland and from the UK. Yeah, obviously him being the hometown boy, it'd be the same thing if he came to fight me in Dublin. It'd be
Yeah,
hostile territory for him. You know what I mean? So yeah.
maybe a rematch down the future, or we get you hometown selling out your arena. Does it dawn on you that you've got to wait for him to come in? How do you stay calm and composed? Obviously, what people don't realize is you've had a 12-week camp, probably 4 or 5 month camp. You've trained, you're professional, you're locked in an environment. But does it ever get on your nerves when people try to play to their game and try to rustle under the feathers a little bit?
Nah, when he walked out, I was sat on the cage. I was sat on top of the cage. You can see there's a photo of me sat on the cage waiting for him to come out. When he came into the cage, I looked at him, looked him dead in the eye. Like I said, like whether you walk out to the national anthem, whether you walk out to no music, whether you walk out to some mad hip hop song, techno, whatever it is, there's not going to be any music playing when we're fighting. The referee's going to say, "Are you ready? Are you ready? Fight!" And it's going to be who's a better fighter at the end of the day. What I mean? It's going to be who's more prepared, who's fitter, who's stronger, who's more technical, who has better fight IQ. And that's what it came down to. What country I come from plays no bearing on the fight itself. Do you know what I mean?
I love that, brother. And now let's go into it there. You said your last win, your most recent win is always your most impressive win today. But do you think not only 5 wins in a row, obviously it would have been better if Arijan was 8-0 or 9-0 or undefeated. Unfortunately, you didn't get a takeaway there, but I think you done it better than anyone else. Obviously, it's only been done once before, but you stopped him and obviously made a statement. Do you think this has got Dana White, Sean Shelby, McMaynard, everyone in the cards looking, even Cage Warriors, PFL, stuff like that?
I mean, I don't think I really want Cage Warriors looking at me, bro. Like I'm fighting in a bigger promotion than Cage Warriors at the moment,
Yeah.
so I wouldn't want to take a step backwards. Maybe Dana White and Sean Shelby know who I am. Don't think I've made enough noise just yet to be on their radar yet. But who knows? In the near future, let's see what they have to say. I'm gonna keep building on my win streak. Like you say, 5 fight win streak now. I'm gonna keep building on that. Keep getting finishes. Keep beating prospects. That's the main thing. Like for me, it's not just about winning fights. It's about winning fights against 7-1, 5-0, 6-2. I'm winning fights against guys that are good, that are up and coming prospects, that are younger than me, been training longer than me. Have had more handed to them on a plate. Like I never got handed anything. I don't have all these big sponsors looking after me, making sure that I have the best food and all this. I've had to graft everything myself. I've had to work a full-time job whilst training. I've had to, now I coach, I coach kids, jiu-jitsu, I coach PTs, I make ends meet whatever way I can. And I haven't had any handouts. Like a lot of my opponents have had handouts, and it's down to who's hungrier. And I think I'm hungrier than all of them. So.
And it shows your mentality, and it just shows that, like you said, they call it Dana White privilege in the UFC, but you're handed a silver spoon, you're given this way. Like I said earlier off camera as well, when you come from a certain background or people that support you, or also that you, like you just mentioned, their sponsors, you're spoon fed until then you get a game opponent like yourself, and then you really see what happens. And I think they want to build their platform 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, but then when you take that next step, then you actually realize the fight. So last few questions on them, maybe before I get on to you. Again, we don't want to look at the negatives, but I don't see this as a negative. I feel this shows how game you are. This shows that your name's being called out, your name's being targeted as well. What happened with Paddy Pimblett for the fans that don't know?
Yeah, obviously there was some back and forth between me and a couple of his teammates on the show, Octagon Challenge UK versus Ireland, which was a couple of years ago. I said some things that he took offense to. I didn't think anything of it, and then I don't know. He ended up coming at me in a comment section somewhere. We've ended up going back and forth, and then one thing led to another. Egos clashed, basically. Egos clashed, and we've ended up sorting out. Let's have a gym straightener then. Let's have a little fight in the gym, which we then did. Whatever happened. We shook hands afterwards, and that was it. That was the end of it. But I think it's better that than like all this bitching online. Like a lot of people bitch at each other online. They never actually meet face to face to actually settle it and solve it. So fucking hell. Half of the fighters on the Octagon roster won't even fight me in the cage and get paid to get beat up. You know what I mean? So yeah, shows that me and Paddy are about maybe old school mentality blokes. Do you know what I mean? Where we will sort out our problems with.
And I love that. Also, you talk about that. I think the Irish are a different breed, the Scots are a different breed. I think it's an old school mentality left. Same for the Albanians as well. But I want to say something there that I think not everyone agrees with, but it's not just they don't agree with. Everyone in this generation, and Mike Tyson said it best. So many people are too safe and protected behind a camera and behind a phone to say something online, and they won't get hit in the face for it. Not necessarily meaning that they're going to get beat up or they're punched, but they're not going to get a penalty or punished for what they say. For example, Ilia Topuria Paddy, he threw the hand sanitizer at him. Ilia then went on to knock out Jai Herbert. During the weigh-ins, Ilia's Georgian fans, obviously half Spanish, half Georgian, booed Paddy. Paddy recently came on stage. I forgot who it was for, but he saw Ilia whilst he's walking across. Instead of doing something physical or pushing him or something, just gave him a fist bump and said respectful. I think for that much beef and that much tension, look, we love to see respect and we love to see it be dealt in the cage, but you can't be like, oh, say this about Georgia and say this about your opponent, and then when you see him face to face and 20, 30 meters apart, they said they were squaring up, they were looking at each other, but then actually when you come close, you're just shaking each other's hands. Like I said, there's a few real people left in this sport, and when I say about that, where you actually do what you say off camera or online, let's just talk about that there. Talk about that game mentality. Is it just, do you think too many fighters nowadays want to build a fight, want to hype a fight, and then when they get in the ring, it's actually not what the fight was built up to do, or what do you think? Because I think so many fighters get in there at the wrong time, and they've gone on two different trajectories. Like you say, Ilya, okay, now he's moved up to lightweight, and he was a featherweight at the time. Paddy calling you out when he's in the UFC top 15, and you're an octagon. It just shows you're giving the other person more praise and more attention.
Yeah, I mean, like they might actually end up fighting there, right?
Yeah.
If Ilya goes and smokes Charles, wins the belt, it's a perfect narrative for Paddy to go and fight Ilya. Yeah, I don't know. People always want to chat shit, and they don't want to back it. Like I chat shit, you know what I mean? But I'll back it. Like at the end of the day, if you're good at something, yeah, you don't do it for free. Like if you're a good plumber, you're not going to go do people's plumbing for free. Well, I'm a damn good fighter, so I'm not going to fight someone for free. I'm not going to risk breaking my hand off someone's head or like getting a cut and then I can't fight. Do you know what I mean? So a lot of these guys in the octagon lightweight division have an issue with things that I say. If you have an issue with things that I say, come then, let's get a contract sorted. Like it's easy for me and the other person to write to the matchmaker and say, I don't like this guy. I want to fight him. We're the same weight. They'll happily make the fight, especially if we don't like each other. There's a narrative there. It sells the fight a bit better, doesn't it? A lot of these guys say they have issue with things I say, but then when it comes to getting to punch me in the face for it, they're nowhere to be found. So, you know, they wanna try and like, oh, let's fight here where there's loads of security and like, yeah, when there's loads of security and cameras and everything and people there, what are we gonna get? Like 2 punches in? And then they're gonna break it up. We're not gonna get to have a proper fight. You know, let's get in the cage, have a proper fight, and then I get to really punch you. No one's gonna pull me off until you're unconscious. Do you know what I mean? So, like you say, I think people have the wrong mentality a lot these days. It's the safety of social media. It's also the safety of society as a whole. Like back in the day, if you said the wrong thing to someone, they would pull out their sword, and it's like, "Yo, we're fighting there to the death. How dare you insult my honor?" You know, people don't have that same mentality anymore. They can't back it.
Hopefully one day we get a fight in a Coliseum. But anyways, talking about that, that is the old school mentality. When can we see you in the UFC, and how does the matchup with you and Paddy look like in the future?
I don't know. I'm still contracted to Octagon as it stands.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. You know, like it's all about God's plan. Whether I'm meant to be in the UFC or not. Obviously, I just have to take it a fight at a time. If I keep winning fights, there's no way that the UFC won't come and grab me, right? Um, as for me and Paddy, obviously with a camp to prepare for Paddy, prepare for his game plan, come in ready, you know, full rule set, rounds. I don't know, like we have to see, like we'd have to see. I obviously have to work on my wrestling a little bit, stuff some of his takedowns, but I believe in the striking realm, I could hang with him. Yeah, that's down the line though, isn't it? So let's just take it one fight at a time, and we'll see maybe in the future.
And going off of fighting for a few minutes now to end the podcast. Denis the Menace Frimpong, obviously I think it's self-explanatory, but where did the nickname the Menace come from? Not only just your fighting style, not only I want to guess a TV program, but how did it come about?
Just it's a bit cliche, isn't it? I never really wanted it to be the Menace because I just thought it was a bit too Dennis the Menace, it's a bit too cliche. But yeah, obviously I'm a bit of an annoying cunt to fight, aren't I? Whether it's in the cage, outside the cage. So I have been known to be a bit of a menace, even in the gym. Just, I suppose it just was given to me by the lads in the gym. They just said, "Yeah, you are a menace." In the end, so I suppose it suits. So I just have to make sure that I'm the best known Dennis the Menace. That's all I can do now at this point.
I love that. And whether it's talking or whether it's fighting in a ring, if you're going to be able to give it, they have to be able to take it back because you've managed to silence your opponents both inside and outside the cage. I want to ask you this, three questions. You can either quick fire them or you can take your time. What's your favorite TV series of all time? What's your favorite song slash artist? And then what's your favorite movie of all time?
Dragon Ball Z is my favorite TV series of all time. Favorite song or artist? I'll just go with artist, and it'll probably be Linkin Park. Um, and what you say? My favorite movie of all time? Probably The Matrix, just because I've watched it so many times. I could probably quote it word for word.
What's your favorite holiday destination to go to?
Ooh, Croatia.
Love that. Rich people life like yourself. Um, okay. If you had a dream opponent, anyone, past or present, sorry, and any location you could sell out, whether it be MSG, Vegas, anywhere, could be a football stadium, whatever. Who do you want to fight, and where would you want to fight?
Conor McGregor in the Tokyo Dome, 96,000 seater.
Whew. The two best Irishmen coming against each other. Another one I wanted to go on to now. Dennis, something special you announced after your win and something that happened, I want to say 9 days ago now or 11 days ago, on the 30th of May 2025. Another Frimpong dynasty entered this world, another member of the family entered this world. Do you want to talk about that?
100%. Yeah, Cassius Frimpong was born. Um, Obviously, I took a risk going out to the Arijan fight to begin with because my wife was full term. She could have given birth the week of the fight. So I did take a risk. Obviously, thankfully, he's like me, he came a bit late. Um, and yeah, I've added to the bloodline now. So I'm fighting for more than just myself now. So I'm fighting for him as well, for my wife. See, I'm just motivated differently now. Like, the last week and a half, week and a little bit, have been hard, difficult, a lot of less sleep than I expected to get. But we're here, and I can't wait to jump back into a camp and to just keep winning fights for him, for his sake.
And a famous UFC fighter who's coming up to his last fight next month, Dustin the Diamond Poirier, said when he had his daughter, his mentality changed as a fighter. Has fatherhood changed? And obviously, we'll only know when we see you next out in the ring, but has fatherhood changed your mentality, not only as a human a little bit, but now you're fighting for more than just yourself and your fans? You've got a little one there.
Yeah, 100%. Even just before he was born, even just when I knew he was on the way, my mentality changed. My last two performances show that I came out very differently than I ever had before. A little bit less showboat and more aggression. Um, but yeah, now that he's born and I've actually got to hold him in my arms and I realize the reality of where we're at and the expenses are starting to build up. Nappies, baby formula aren't cheap. So yeah, I'm motivated very differently, and I think the fans are going to be excited to see it because you're going to see a lot more finishes now coming.
I love to hear that. And talk about the lightweight division now in the UFC. Who's your favorite fighter?
In the
Or
lightweight division,
any division possibly, but who's your favorite fighter to watch in the UFC right now?
probably ENI-THING, to be honest. Like in terms of like excitement, but in terms of like the style I like to emulate, um, probably Stephen Thompson. I do like Stephen Thompson. I like the way he fights. Kevin Holland.
Potential matchup in the future at welterweight, maybe.
Maybe. I think that's a good fight. I'd like that fight. I'd like that fight.
And that'll be a good face to face if we get one.
Thanks.
And talking about that, would you ever get the little one into the sport or keep him far away from it as possible?
I want him to train. I want him to be able to fight. I don't want him to be a pro fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. And just for I let you go, penultimate question. What's your one motivational message to the world for fans to block out the outside noise, block out the negativity, block out the haters, and follow and pursue their dreams?
End of the day, no matter what you do, no matter how good you are, how good of a person, no matter what, how much you try to please people, you're always going to have haters if you're successful. So just do you, you know? Like, I've got haters. I could argue that like I am a bit of a heel and I'm a bit of a villain or whatever, like, so I'm gonna have haters. But mate, Stephen Thompson has haters, like all these other Khabib has haters and he's like a respectful guy. Like no matter what you do, people are gonna hate you anyway. So just do you. Don't try and impress people.
God bless you, champ, and that's going to help me and a lot of other people. Before I let you go, Denis Frimpong, what's your message to your Slovenian, your Ghanaian, your Irish, your British, UK, worldwide fans, and when can fans next expect to see you out? And do you want to be out one more time, two more times before the end of the year, or potentially even three?
I want to be out at least 2 more times by the end of the year, depending on how those fights go. Could be three. But yeah, I would expect to be out in September. I want to be out in September, but just keep an eye out on the Instagram page. I have all the updates on there. It's the only real social media I use consistently. So yeah, just keep an eye out. Fight announcements will hopefully be on there very soon. If we can get a fight sorted, and yeah, try and get down. Try and get to wherever I'm fighting. Pay for the pay-per-view. Everyone knows I bring excitement every time I fight. So.
Love to hear it. God bless you, champ, and looking forward to next seeing you out. Thank you for today.
Appreciate it a lot, lads. Nice for having me on.